Good morning.
Good afternoon. Good
evening.
Good night.
Good night. My name is John.
My name's Arvin.
Welcome to Behind the Scenes
Of our best days.
And yes, if it is your very first time listening, thank you so much for listening. We really appreciate
nice
you checking it out. Here at Victory, we absolutely love our ministry and our pastors, Pastor Paul and Ashley.
Yeah.
And this ministry consists of a camp, a Tulsa Dream Center, missionary Victory Leadership Network, which is missionaries and churches that have been planted through our Bible college.
Yeah.
So we also have Bible college.
Yeah.
Victory
Christian
School. Yeah, Victory Christian School.
Yeah.
There's the church.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of different entities.
Quite the place.
And
Yeah.
So this whole podcast is about the behind the scenes look of what that is and what that looks like.
Yeah.
Because those of you who are working in ministry, or even if you're not working in ministry,
Sure.
you're still may be curious about like, what is it like behind the scenes of our best days?
Absolutely.
And so today I really wanted to hit on, in when I say relationships, it's not necessarily, yes, I want to hit on relationships.
Sure.
And I don't just want to hit them. Let's hit them with like a semi-truck. I'm just kidding.
Let's run over them.
Let's Logan Paul them. Let's call them out and be like, hey, I want to fight relationships.
That's right. Yeah.
When I say that, I don't mean like dating or marriage, because I don't think that I'm the best person to be talking about that, just because I don't have years of experience. But
Neither do I.
Yeah. But one thing that I would like to bring up is behind the scenes of really thinking of in a ministry, because ministry is like a machine.
Yeah.
And very easily, if you are working in a ministry or if you're working in an organization that is sprinting or like a train, it's like a locomotive, like it just doesn't stop.
That's right.
So like relationships can be tested during that.
Totally.
During those times, it can even be difficult, but all relationships actually start with you.
Yeah.
It's not what you can give someone else. It's not, it really is. And it's an outer reflection of how you view yourself.
That's right.
So if you're having any conflicts with relationships before pointing fingers or other things, I think that the easiest way is at first always look inner.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah. Which that itself is its own punchline, because I think most people, as you approach ministry or friendships or co-working or peers or authority above you, below you, whatever, what you just said is actually probably the biggest point about it, is that it all comes back to your relationship with yourself. That will influence how you feel about yourself, and how you think God feels about you will influence how you treat people, what you think about them privately, what you say about them behind their back. It will feed all of those things.
Yes, and just a side note, always talk good about people behind their back, because it will always get back to them.
100%. 100%.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we're cool with talking about people behind the back.
Yeah.
In fact, but you shouldn't boost them.
Yeah.
Boost is basically like just saying clout that you don't really mean.
Lying about people.
Yeah. What I mean is genuine, like being authentic about like,
and if you have nothing to say, don't say anything.
Don't say anything.
Yeah. Oh, man.
Yeah. But those of you who are creative, I believe that you guys can look inward and be like, okay, I can be creative when I'm thinking about this individual, even if you don't have the best relationship with them, but always to say something kind and genuine and authentic about them.
Sure.
But anyways, going back to yourself, I think that sometimes what is very difficult whenever people come into, let's first talking about coming into a church or a connect group or a group of friends, is that the opposite of belonging is fitting in. I'm going to say that again. The opposite of belonging is fitting in. Never betray your true self to fit in. Yeah. God created you with all of your quirks and all of your all of your uniqueness, right? So there is a niche for your uniqueness. Yeah. All right. If we fit in by how we changed ourselves, that's not really belonging.
No.
True belonging does not ask us to change who we are, but to be who we are. Yeah. If you are yourself, you belong into every room that you walk into. Yeah. there is a timidity sometimes whenever, and I even get this, if ever I walk into a room, and I think it all started in the lunchroom.
Oh, wow.
Right?
Oh, wow. Yeah.
A lunchroom or recess.
Sure.
Or maybe like you're the last one to show up to a birthday party and everyone already has the hats on and you come in without the hat and you know that your gift is just like duct tape and toothpicks.
Yeah.
Because you I don't know. It's just some bad gift. And so anyways, but whenever you walk into a room, it's being confident of who you are and being like, this is who I am.
Yeah.
You belong into every room that you walk into. And that doesn't mean that you have to have a big personality.
Sure.
That doesn't mean that you have to be extremely charismatic.
Sure, yeah.
That it is, like one of the main writers in the Bible, Paul, they said that he wasn't the best communicator. He was an incredible writer.
Sure.
Just kind of a boring dude.
Yeah.
People literally
Talk
fell
people
asleep.
off a ledge.
Yeah, people fell asleep listening to the Apostle Paul preach, fell out of a window, died, and he had to
heal them.
He had to heal them.
What a humiliating prayer, by the way, where he's like, God, I messed up. I prayed I preached for too long. Can you please? This dude's mom is so mad at me right now.
Yes, this dude's mom is because of how boring I am.
Yeah.
So I mean, if the Apostle Paul, is kind of, humorous at looking at himself and he's, very aware. I think it's okay for us, regardless where you're at. I think about, for me, whenever I initially got into being a youth pastor.
Oh, wow.
We went to these youth pastor conferences. Now, this is back in early 2000s.
Yes.
And the term networking was as viral as COVID.
Oh, boy.
It was like, just trying to network, trying to network.
Yeah.
And everyone had faux hawks.
Yeah.
And they would be like, hey, so you know, true religion, Jeans,
That's right.
is where my faith is. And I would be like, oh man, I need to get these. I need to go into debt in order to have these jeans. And I also want to make sure that I wear these specific type of Chelsea boots and all those types of things, and making sure that I have the plunging the
V-neck.
the V-neck that goes all the way down to my belly button. That was an actual style
for a long time. Yeah.
And I think it was a style among youth pastors back then,
sure.
because anytime I would go visit a school lunch, they'd go, what are you wearing?
What's going on? Yeah.
I think that it was a weird.
Yeah.
So we would go to these youth pastor conferences, and but I was always like, man, I feel like I don't necessarily fit in.
Sure.
And so anyways, and I remember, oh man, I just remember some of those walking away from certain conversations and even situations being just cringing.
Yeah.
Being like, man, I feel like I'm just not on their level, just because I wouldn't dress or whatever.
So you felt like you had to, the average person in the room, you had to meet that standard.
I had to meet that standard, as opposed I let the room happen to me. And I know that you've even said, Arvin, said whenever you walk into the room, you should happen to the room.
Sure. Yeah.
So I'm saying that to everyone. When you walk into the room, you happen to the room. Don't let the room happen to you.
That's right. Yeah.
Now, it's easy for us to say that. And you go, well, how in the world do I do that? That's probably not like that. But it is a thing. It comes from and one thing that me and Arvin are really big on is just solitude and reflection.
Big time.
Because if you can be comfortable with yourself alone, we learn from our master, Jesus, it says that he often withdrew to the wilderness.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because he had to be a lot of things to a lot of people.
Right.
And so it says that he often withdrew to the wilderness. Which is just unique in itself, because that was where he was initially tempted.
That's right.
The Holy Spirit drove him to the wilderness in the first spot.
Yeah.
And then he was tempted there and, fasted. So there's a lot of difficult memories there, but that's where he built who he was.
Absolutely.
So he often would go back to that place that built who he was.
Wow. It's very good.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
And so anyways, and that was why people were like, Jesus was so loving and he was the life of the party and all these types of things. Yes, but he was himself everywhere he went.
Yeah.
And he didn't apologize to people who were in the synagogue.
Sure.
And he didn't even apologize to sinners.
Yeah.
Even the rich young ruler, who it would be like if a celebrity came into a church service and they were amazing and they were great people and they approached the pastor Jesus and they were like, hey, I have built 500 wells in Ethiopia and I've done all these great things and I've also memorized the Bible and and then Jesus says, sell everything you have and follow after me.
Mm-hmm.
So this dude who has everything, all of a sudden he turns away, and Jesus didn't even run after him.
Yeah.
You know,
Right.
sometimes
Right.
if you're in a ministry,
Mm-hmm.
and what we have seen in the past, I'm not saying it happens everywhere,
Sure.
but sometimes a minister feels like, oh no, there goes my tither.
Sure. Wow.
There goes my offering guy. And they
Yeah.
would run after
Yeah.
that rich young ruler and be like, actually, hey, you're good.
Yeah.
Just stay here.
Right.
Keep tithing. Keep, you know.
Yeah.
But Jesus did not feel the need to even explain himself,
I love it. Yeah.
which is really incredible. And the whole reason why we're talking about is the greatest friend ever to live was Jesus.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So today, as we're kind of talking through these things, it's
Mm-hmm.
like, okay, fake friends, all those types of things. One of the greatest people we can look at is Jesus in that.
Absolutely, yeah.
And also thinking about where you're at in your ministry, thinking things through,
Yeah.
always doing that inner reflection, maybe withdrawing to that wilderness,
Mm-hmm,
that place where built who you were, you know,
Mm-hmm.
on an often enough basis. That way you can be who you are in any situation that you are in.
Yeah. I think about what he would do for his friends and what he wouldn't do for his friends, because Proverbs says the fear of the Lord brings security. So a lack of godly fear is the root of insecurity. And so
Fascinating.
because he feared God and had a real appetite for God's identity, character, and heart, I love how he would defend his friends to the Pharisees, or even the woman who pours the perfume all over his feet and all that stuff is going down. Even his friends are saying something they shouldn't be, and he corrects them right then and there.
So he even corrected his friends.
Big time, yeah.
How often are you in a conversation and all of a sudden you feel like, well, I don't want to correct my friends because
Yeah.
then I may hurt their feelings.
Yeah, and more often it's do your friends feel like they have permission to correct you or approach you and talk
Hold on,
about
say that again.
Do your friends feel like they have permission to correct you? Do your friends feel like they have permission to ask you about why you do certain things? Or do you just want them to be your hype team? Because that's where fake friends come from.
Fake friends come from a hype team.
Yeah, where it's like, I just need people to tell me what so that's what I mean, there's a whole social economy around that, where it's like, I want to have a certain type of dress, like those youth pastors in that room that, thank God, I wasn't there. But there's that. But I had my own version of it, obviously.
Right.
Yeah,
We all have our
I
own
went to
versions.
college where it was the scoop neck. You had to be Joel
scoop
Houston.
neck.
Everyone
Joel
was talking like
Houston.
Joel Houston. Kids from Louisiana were talking
Yes,
like
everyone
Joel.
is.
I was like,
oh my gosh. Okay, real quick.
Yeah.
I remember in the middle of, there was a month where there was a certain individual who was leading worship, and in the middle of worship, there was a guest speaker who came from Hillsong,
Yeah.
who was Australian.
Yeah.
And this individual was there.
Yeah.
And our worship leader, who is from Broken Arrow, Oklahoma,
100%.
said, "All right, church, if we could all just raise our hands and just feel the presence of God."
Oh,
in here."
man.
And I wanted to eat an offering envelope. Literally, my diet became offering envelopes. I was
Yeah.
like, I'm just going to eat these because I feel I'm like shrinking.
You're just pounding communion packets.
I'm like, oh my gosh, I just hate it. Anyways,
Yeah.
But afterwards, I was like, please never do that again. And
Yeah.
and it happened a few more times. The guy is great. I think he was just trying to make a
yeah. Sure.
like
An impression.
Yeah, an impression on
Yeah.
the Hillsong
So
guy
he
that
did
was
an
there.
impression.
So he did, and it was cringe status.
Absolutely.
Okay. So
no,
continue.
but in the world, there's a social economy around, like, when you attain wealth, status, prestige, fame, celebrity, the clothing you wear, then people want to be around you. There's also a version of that in the church, where it's like, if your ministry's popping off and your clothing is a certain way and your shoes are a certain, there's a whole it applies to that area as well. I love the thought of, if Jesus was in the modern day, how he would navigate all of that.
Like if Jesus was working in the accounting,
Right.
and Jesus was like, "Hey, I'm working in the accounting department." He comes in with like a quill behind his ear, and he comes in with like check recs and POs. And
Yeah,
he's like,
yeah,
"Hey,
yeah.
I just wanted to check up on these balances."
Yeah.
You know, it says at the end of your life you'll have to give an account, but today it's today.
Yeah.
You're gonna have to
Yeah.
give it. And then how he would interact.
Totally.
Anyways.
No, of course.
I don't know.
No, I think it does apply there, and then there's nothing wrong with it. I love cool clothes. I love all that stuff as well. What I do think, though, is when it gets to the place where you pick and choose your friends, and the type of friend that you are to people around you is rooted in that hopeful upward drive of, I just want to be this way. Well, you're going to be surrounded by people who also feel that way. So none of you are going to have any depth to you, and you're going to be regurgitating sermons that you copied from other people you've heard. And I've been in those circles, and I've been that person myself, and it's exhausting. And I honestly think, like, I don't want to put a percentage number on it, but I would bet my mortgage that a large percentage of people who at 22, 23, and 24 are like, nah, man, church ain't it. Like, I'm going to deconstruct. And they go through that. But I'm not saying not all of them, because I had my own version of it. Yeah. But I would wager that a lot of them come out of, you became disillusioned by the social economy you attached to ministry. And when you realized that you no longer were in the running, perhaps, to be the big dude or the big woman, like the big person, maybe then you started to question the theology. Maybe then you started to feel like, I don't know if I want to buy into this, because initially it was the truth of God's word plus the social dynamics I get to enjoy because of it. And once you felt like those social dynamics were going away, which is what the Holy Spirit does for everybody, like you said earlier, he moves Jesus into the wilderness.
Yeah.
And says that before you even have social dynamics, I want to bring you here. And most people resist that, and they go, no, I want to go where everyone's at. I want to go turn water into wine. I want to go do all that stuff.
And so after Jesus turned water into wine, it was then when the Holy Spirit...
No, he had come back, but that's something interesting, because he goes into the wilderness, and then he gets baptized, going into the wilderness, comes back from the wilderness after surviving what he'd been tempted, and then he picks his disciples, and then he goes to the wedding in Cana to turn the water into wine.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's such a unique outline.
Yeah, absolutely.
So he was baptized first, basically representing down with the old, up with the new.
Yeah.
You know, and then God was like, this is my son in whom I am well pleased.
Right.
And then the Holy Spirit drove him out into the wilderness.
And something very significant happened in the wilderness that enabled him to handle the wedding in Cana. Because at the end of that wedding, a bunch of people want to follow him, and he turned them away. He goes, you don't have to teach me about the heart of man. I don't trust people. No one had to tell. And why is that? Because in the wilderness, he had the chance to turn stones into bread.
He had the chance to choose the dark side of the heart of
Sure,
man.
I can use my gifting to feed myself. And he chose against it.
Deep, bro.
So later on, there's several opportunities. There's several opportunities throughout his ministry where there are obvious moves that would make sense to someone in 2022. That's like, even in John 7, his own family members are like, don't you want to be a famous speaker? Go to this festival and do your thing. And they're mocking him because he's not even good at becoming a famous speaker, because that wasn't his goal. He wasn't trying to climb that social economic ladder.
Yeah. And so anyways, and that's why he felt comfortable around people who were genuine and authentic. And that's why everyone's like, he eats with tax collectors and sinners, and you know, and he was, and he met up with a woman at the well who had 5 husbands and all those different types of things. And it was like, at least those people were true to who they were.
100%. Yeah.
And he was just like, anyways, man, that is so cool. I also think, you know, whether it is friendships, opportunities, or relationships, if it's from God, it won't have to be forced.
Right.
So sometimes people forcing friendships of being like, hey, let's hang out. Like, if you're forcing a friendship, if you're forcing an opportunity, if you're forcing ministry, that's not from God.
Right. Absolutely.
And so you can just look, kind of do like a wilderness moment where you kind of reflect and you're like, is there anywhere where I'm forcing it? Okay. That probably ain't from God.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So, okay.
Yeah.
Another thing that I was thinking of is that for me, I was anytime, I don't know if any of you guys have done this, whenever trying to be a better friend. Sometimes I am Mr. Solution. And so when people tell me an issue, I want to give them a solution. Or I am like, someone goes, hey, you know, I'm really going through this. And I go, yeah, I remember when my dad died.
Oh, wow.
And then you know, which is true.
Sure. Yeah.
But I'm then making it about me. And and in my mind, I'm like, well, I'm just trying to relate to them. But no, it was like, John, were you even listening? And so anyways, I just realized I need to shut my mouth more. Because if if you shut your mouth more whenever you're truly listening as a friend, then you actually have more things to talk about.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Because then you're talking to them,
Yeah.
and you're talking with them, not to them. And so, anyways, those are just small dynamics as I am looking at. Now, this is me looking at me.
Sure, yeah.
Of being like, man, how many different times, when Jesus would just listen to people.
Sure. Absolutely.
Not listening to respond, but listening out
To
of
understand,
love,
yeah.
to understand,
Right.
to understand,
Yeah.
And I also feel like the great thing is that, I believe there is a world where in a friendship you can disagree and it not be drama.
Absolutely.
But I feel like there's sometimes where people are like, if we disagree,
Oh boy.
like we will not move on
Yeah.
until we both agree on this.
Well, look at what's happening in the world right now. You
Talk about it.
multiply that dynamic by an entire nation or an entire news cycle, and people are incapable of having conversations with one another. So I feel like in the next 10, 20 years, the thing that will indicate that a person knows God will be that they're capable of having a conversation. Not that they're...
Say that again.
Yeah.
The people that know God.
The thing that will cause a person of God, a godly person, to distinguish themselves is the ability to simply have a conversation. It won't be we have attached our politics to our theology and we are going to die on this hill, Capitol Hill right here. Like that whole demographic of people, there's layers and layers of examples in scripture of people who did the same thing. And it's not bad because their intentions are so good. Even the disciples, after Jesus has resurrected from the dead, they go, okay, so when are you establishing our kingdom? That was their question.
I was like, dude, read the room.
Yeah,
disciples.
it's not about that at
Read
all.
the
You still don't
room.
get it. And he's looking at them like, I came to bring a kingdom, not a kingdom. And so
Even when someone asks, they're like, all right, so should we give to you or to Caesar?
Yeah.
He's like,
That's
render
not.
unto Caesar.
Yeah.
Which is Caesar's.
I'm not trying to overthrow governments. I'm trying to like, it's fascinating how much the human condition is willing to. I would rather see the entire government of our nation completely change instead of allow God to change something in me.
Whoa.
It's that first thing you
so
said.
This is an inward thing. So say that.
Absolutely.
One more
A person who says, I'm unwilling to change myself. So I want to see the world change around me. And many people think that that's justified because they're saying, I want the world around me to be more godly. And it's like, okay, that's great. I would love that too. I think Jesus would love that too. But I don't think Jesus's primary goal while he was on earth was to get the environment around him to be godly. If that's what he wanted, he would have stayed in heaven. There were angels in heaven. Everything was godly in heaven. He did not have to leave. If the environment he was craving was a godly one, he could have stayed in heaven. But he came to say, I can create a godly environment in you. Would you like that? I'm going to send the Holy Spirit, and that's what he will do. He will create within you. It says in Romans 5, the Holy Spirit will fill your heart with God's love. So it's like everything a lot of people would do well, myself included, to look around at what their opinions are about how the world should be, and then pause and say, am I allowing the Holy Spirit to do that inside of me right now?
Whoa, bing bong. That's good.
Yeah.
So it's like a thing of you actually can control your happiness
100%.
if you just continue to look inside. And you said in the Romans that the Holy Spirit will do what in your
Will
heart?
fill your heart with God's love.
With God's love.
Right.
And God's love is
Yeah.
actually different from ours.
Big time. Yeah, because you got to earn your own.
Yeah, because check this out. So God's love for you, anyone who's listening, God's love for you is not based on if you slept in or if you missed paying your bills or if you were a garbage garbage father or mother, whether you're strung out on drugs or whether you are, you've memorized the Bible 3 times or whatever.
Yeah.
Like God's love isn't dependent on that.
Right.
So God's love loves people, period.
Absolutely.
So if you feel like, man, why can't I love this person? You can actually look at Romans and be like, maybe I should get God's love inside of me.
Totally.
Because if I have God's love inside of me, I can love myself. Then
Right.
I'm more of myself around my friends
Totally.
and in situations, and I'm not doing like a side eye at someone because they're drinking at a party and they're drunk or whatever.
Right.
Like it's like, you know what? I'm here.
Yeah.
I'm happening to the room.
Yeah.
And it's really not you happening to the room. It's God's love happening to the room.
Absolutely.
And it says that you will know them by
Their fruit.
their fruit,
Yeah.
and their love.
Yeah.
So I feel like, one thing that, we had a guest speaker in a few weeks ago, Craig Rochelle.
Awesome.
And
It was so good.
and it was really great. Awesome. It's on Victory Tulsa YouTube.
Yeah.
And then the following week, Pastor Ty and Debbie Barker spoke about God's
True
love.
love, yeah.
And they were like, the only way to have a great relationship is to understand that you are loved. And it's that Roman scripture. And so anyways, all of them talked about, but one thing that Pastor Craig said, he goes, do people know that you are a follower without you having to say, I'm a Christian? And he said, this is how they'll know, by your love, which is something that we've heard preached a zillion times.
Sure.
But it is a daily good checkup. It's that Post-it on your rear view as you're driving, being like, wait, hold on. Am I showing God's love? Not John's love, because John's love is jaded, and I be getting ticked off sometimes, and I don't like myself sometimes.
Yeah.
But am I showing God's love?
Right.
Not John's love, because
Yeah.
John's love has limits. It's got caps. It's
Yeah.
you know what I mean.
No, absolutely.
It's got holes.
Sure. Every person has that where it's like, I don't deserve to love myself until I blank.
Yeah.
And
until I'm like, I've crossed off all the
wealthy enough, godly enough,
all those things. And
even
so,
godly enough. That's where it gets so tricky. When God's like, I love you fully right now. And you're like, I will love myself more when I feel like I'm more like you than I am right now. And God's like, well, the only way to get there is for me to actually love you now. It's my love that changes you. And you go, I understand, but I would like a crack at this. And it's like, okay, all right,
okay.
try it.
So
Yeah.
I remember some of you guys who have been in church for a while. My dad, you guys remember when people would wear suits all the time. We had fake plants on stage.
Oh, yeah.
Purple was a key color. You had
right.
to have purple on stage because
the
or else God
sovereignty
would
of
not
God.
move. Yeah. It was like we high fived with TBN. And we were like purple, gold, fake flowers. And then we just vomited that.
Yeah.
So I remember when my dad dressed like a politician. It was suit, tie.
Sure, that was the era.
But it was his era. And I loved it. And it was one of those things that he was like, hey, people always initially will decide within the first 2 minutes if they want to listen to you. So you always want to be above reproach.
Sure.
And then my dad had an interaction with someone who was a wealthy person. He didn't know it at the time, but this person that he began ministering to that he met at a gas station in Clarksville.
Wow.
Clarksville. It's on the way to Texarkana, Arkansas, and my dad met this. He was like filling up gas at the pump, and he starts talking to this guy. We're like on our way to go see our cousins. Yes, Texarkana is a place that exists.
Yeah.
It's Texas, Arkansas, and Louisiana. It's Texas and Arkansas on the border. That's why
Yeah.
they call it twice as nice.
Yeah.
But there's a paper mill and it smells like poo. So gotta love Arkansas. So anyways, we were driving. My dad started talking to this guy, and then my dad would always give out mini books. So he wrote this, and he was like, there's this book.
Yeah.
And it was one he wrote. It was called This New Life.
Yeah.
And my dad prays with this guy. This guy receives Jesus, and he's like, okay, well, now what do I do? And he gives him this book.
Yeah.
And it's called This New Life.
Yeah.
And this mini book was all about how now to like live and think now that you have accepted Jesus into your heart.
Yeah.
And the guy was like, yeah, I just don't like church because I don't own a suit.
Whoa.
And he said that to my dad. And he was like, and my dad was like, well, you don't have to wear a suit. And he's like, everywhere I go, the pastors wear suits.
Wow.
That impacted my dad, that one conversation. Now, I'm sure there were seeds planted.
Sure.
He gets back in the car.
Wow.
We're driving away, and my dad goes, we're going to have a jeans service.
Yeah.
I don't know if any of you guys remember, but there was churches
Oh, yeah.
in like the late 90s and early 2000s to where like, hey, we're going to do a young service, and I'm going to wear jeans to preach
That's
in.
right.
And
Yeah.
my dad would literally change. He would be like, I'm going to be,
Yeah.
and we were doing 4 services. He was driving between the Maybe Center and then this, and he would like change in order for certain audiences.
Yeah.
And it, now that you guys are looking at that, probably hearing that and being like, that's a little goofy, but it really impacted my dad because
Yeah.
my dad was like, oh my goodness, I want to
Yeah.
make sure that people feel like they're welcomed here. I don't want them to think that I'm above them or whatever. So
yeah.
then my dad began going to our worship team, and our worship team was like, yeah, but it was the other pastors that they were like, well, like this is part of my faith is my suit.
Right.
And my dad was like, I'm the head pastor, and if I'm wearing jeans, you're going to wear jeans. And then they're like, it's just not honoring on stage. And my dad was like, you are going to wear jeans.
Yeah.
It was like a thing.
Right.
It was like an argument behind the scenes of their best days about
Fascinating.
wearing jeans.
That's so
now,
interesting.
obviously, thank God there's more freedom there and people wear jeans more freely.
Of course, yeah.
But what was unique is that the following year, a year later, we are driving to Texarkana, and my dad actually put the story in one of his books. And we stop by the same gas station in Clarksville, and my dad sees that same guy.
Wow.
And the guy sees him, he's filling up the gas, and my dad was like, I wonder if I'll see that guy. And he sees that guy, and he's there in the gas station. He's eating food.
Yeah.
And he has like some other friends or family with him. I can't remember. But anyways, my dad goes, hey, and he goes, Billy Joe Daugherty, This New Life.
Whoa.
And my dad was like, you remember? And he goes, absolutely. And he said, I started going to church.
Yeah.
And he was like, I realized that my new life is not necessarily about what's on the outside, but what's on the inside.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And my dad was like, I'm so happy. You know, they hugged, you know, and then that was it.
That's awesome.
But I was like, Dad, you changed that guy's life, but that guy changed your life.
For sure. Absolutely.
Because it opened up so many times within relationships.
Yeah.
Our opinions limit our love. And our opinions are not always gospel.
Right.
You know?
Absolutely.
And so, anyways, I think that it is a refreshing approach to continue, like what it says in the Bible. Jesus often withdrew to the wilderness. The wilderness is where he was built. You know, whether it was from temptation or all those types of things, where he was able to like build that spirit within him.
Yeah.
Then, whenever he was in the parties, he was in the synagogue, or he was flipping tables. He was like, I'm not going to apologize for who I am, because I know who I am, because it was formed in the wilderness.
Yeah.
And so then he was able to truly love people because he understood the love that he had for himself.
That's awesome. I know we're wrapping up, so this is the last thing I'll share, but I feel like the church needs even more people who are willing to have God do in them the thing that they think they're called to do in the world, which they are called to do.
Say that again.
The church needs more people who are willing to let God do in them the ministry that they're trying to launch publicly in the world. Because
really
what
good.
that will do is it will lower the barrier of entry in the minds of people like that guy in Clarksville, who will go, oh, I can be a church. Like, I actually really like it when people who party and have a sinful lifestyle also come to church.
Because they sinned. I have a sinful lifestyle.
Right. It's like, well, their sin is a little different than yours. Like, yeah, exactly. So I really feel like that's part of not only the motive behind this podcast, but also just our friendship is an example of that. And the best friendships I have.
Arvin, I want you to know that you can always tell me if I'm being a snake in the grass.
And likewise, I haven't seen that so far, but if it ever comes up, I'll let you know.
Okay.
But yeah, all I'll say is the church needs more people, because I'm. It has occurred to me in the last, maybe since the beginning of 2022, that David tries to build a house for God, and God says to David, I'm going to build a house for you. And I was reflecting on that recently as this year has started. So much is happening. We're so excited for all of it, but it's a lot. And it was weighing on me, and I'm at the gym, and it finally lands that God's saying, I will build a house for you, like a life for you. I have a plan for your life if and because you'll let me build a house for myself in you.
You will let me build a house for myself
in you. If you'll let me do what you want to do in the world someday, I want to do in you
that's
first.
So good. Okay, there's there's a throwback worship song. It's Lord, prepare me to be a sanctuary,
right? Exactly.
Pure and holy, tried and true.
Yeah.
So, but it's Lord, prepare me to be a sanctuary.
Yeah.
So God building that house in David,
in you, in David.
You,
yeah.
And the sanctuary has to be pure and holy.
Right. Right.
And so if you are asking God, man, it's that Roman scripture.
My life, my ministry, my
ministry,
marriage, everything,
things,
all of it.
All of it.
Yeah.
God begins to work in you.
Yeah.
So, again, the best way for friendship is to first have a great relationship with yourself. And the only way to do that is, hey, let's withdraw to the wilderness. Let's pray that Romans prayer for God's love and really doing an inner search with us, because we happen to any room that we walk into.
Yeah.
We happen to the car that we're driving with our kids in the back seat.
Yeah.
Or we happen
Yeah.
whenever we go into a party or a gathering with friends,
Yeah.
and people are experiencing us, is it's like, man, there will be a draw to you
Big time.
as you are yourself, not changing who you are, but evolving who you are.
Becoming more of yourself.
Becoming more of yourself,
Yeah.
whom God created you to be from the OG.
That's right.
We love that. Hey, thank you so much for listening to
Thanks,
Behind
guys.
the Scenes
Of our best days.
We love you.
We'll see you next episode.